With all the survival games that are currently being released, are you just not sure which one to try? Well, today we are going to take a dive into the three that I have been completely fixated with. Hello. I'm Steph of All Steph and Games, and lately I have been in what I deem my survival game era. There have been so many releases of survival games, and I've been loving them for very different reasons. And if I had to choose one, what would it be? Well, the three that we're going to dive into today are Nightingale, Power World, and Enshrouded. And before I begin, I will preface this by saying that all three of these games are currently in early access, so I'm only judging them based on their current performance and content that is in the game. A lot of things could change as the developers continue to receive feedback from their player base, and I'm going to rank them from the easiest to the most difficult in my opinion, and at the end I'll give my overall feedback of what I believe is the best of all three. So starting with Power World. In Power World, it describes itself as a game where you can fight, farm, build, and work alongside mysterious creatures called pals in a completely new multiplayer open world survival and crafting game. And that is really exactly what the game is. The pros, in my opinion, is number one, it is a great intro into survival games. It doesn't have super complicated controls, and the UI is very easy to navigate, as well as the tutorial that you get in the beginning of the game. It really helps you with navigating and the mechanics of the game. So I definitely would recommend, if you are someone starting out with survival games, especially with Power World, that you do the tutorial. It definitely would help 100%. It's also great for a completionist because you have this ability to collect all these pals. It can become extremely addictive. I also thoroughly enjoy the big map. I am a huge exploration girl and has so many different areas, so many different biomes for you to explore. It's truly a beautiful game. And another pro would be the building. It's very simple building, especially again for someone who's not necessarily the most familiar with building in these type of games where you have so much availability. It's very simple, but perfect for the beginner survival game person. The cons, in my opinion, would be with the building. As someone who does have a background in Sims, I would love if there were more textures for the buildings. As of right now, there's only stone, wood, and metal. I would love to see what the future of the game holds with more textures for the building. I would also love the ability to plant foliage or plants, for example, like trees. The only tree-ish item we have is the actual logging station, but I would love if we can have these trees to place wherever we would like. Another con would be the overall optimization of the game. One thing I will say is the developers have been amazing with weekly updating the game to optimize it better, and it has gotten better from the beginning, but I do feel like there is still room for overall improvement regarding the optimization of the game. And I would just love a little bit more layers of what you can do, because it does get to a point where once you've collected the pals, it's kind of repetitive. You're just capturing more powerful pals so that you can capture more powerful pals so you can capture more powerful pals. So I just would love a little bit more of the layering of what you can do. But overall, Power World is an excellent start to those who are new in the survival game genre. So the next game we'll go over is Enshrouded. Enshrouded is a game that combines survival and exploration in a foggy world. On the difficulty scale, it is definitely harder to navigate than Power World. However, again, if you follow the quests as they occur, it does make it easier to figure out the game and what you should be doing. The pros, I will say, is the fact that you can build into literally anything. You can terraform the terrain however you want. There are also over 30 textures to choose from as far as the blocks to build to your heart's content. I have seen the most insane build with Enshrouded. They're currently holding a contest, and the submissions I've seen have been incredible. The combat although overwhelming for a beginner, is also very satisfying. Some enemies can feel overwhelming, but that could just be the novice in me. And also the way that you save each NPC, and each NPC plays a role in what you can craft and gather. It's so fun. It just adds another layer to the game that makes you feel so much more immersed and not alone if you're playing solo, which kind of goes back to what I'm requesting for Power World. It's just that extra little layer to the game. As far as the cons, the customization of your character is absolutely horrid. They do have plans to upgrade, and I really hope that they do, because it can use some work. Also, figuring out the quest can be difficult, as the indicator doesn't always work as far as once you reach where you should be on your quest. Trying to find out where you're supposed to go next, the indicator will say that the location's above when it's really below. So there are definitely some room for improvements regarding the optimization, but still overall, the questing is really fun, especially a lot of the puzzles that are in the game. It makes it such an enjoyable experience. I also would love that if once you found an item, if it showed like a glossary as far as like what the item is used for or where you can find it again, or in other locations where you can possibly locate it if you've unlocked that area of the map. I would love if they would add that, because I have so many items that I don't know what to do yet. So I'm doing what I normally do in any game, and that's just hoard. Last but certainly not least is Nightingale. Nightingale is a gaslamp fantasy game where you can explore, craft, build, and fight in different Fey realms. You can play solo or with friends and use realm cards to customize your world. Out of the 3 games, it is the most difficult of all the games. The customization is incredible. This feature where you can use your ancestry to create the actual look of your character is amazing. It's one of the most unique things that I have seen regarding the customization of a character in a game in a very long time. The storyline is also top tier. It does a great job at explaining the lore around the game, which I think it makes it an overall enjoyable experience. The game is also stunning, absolutely stunning, especially due to the time frame that it takes place in, which I believe is like the early 1900s, and the outfits, the clothing, it is all just overall a beautiful game. As well as the textures that you have to build with. The building in the game is so satisfying just because of how beautiful it looks. As for the cons, the UI could definitely use some work. It is not the most beginner-friendly game at all. If I was someone coming new into the survival game era, I can see Nightingale being extremely overwhelming. But if you are someone who's like me and is very stubborn, you are going to figure it out and accept the fact that it is just another layer of a challenge. But for those who may not necessarily want to have to learn the mechanisms of a game that deeply, I could see it being a con. Also, the optimization could use some work for third-person view. I am someone who can get very nauseated in first person. So if a game has third-person view, I'm going to lean on that a lot more. They do have plans for it to be updated in the future. It is still very much in an early access phase where it does notate that, but I really need them to chop and work on that feature because the first person is just too much in this game. Another con is this game can be a little complicated to figure out at times. It's definitely a lot more challenging to learn, specifically when it comes to the controls, as I've stated. The building could also use better optimization and a little bit better of an explanation. If it wasn't for chat during my streams being able to point out some certain controls in the game, I don't see how I would have been able to figure it out on my own. I mean, I'm sure I could have just kept pressing buttons and figuring it out, but they definitely could do a little better with the explanation on how to use the controls when it comes to the building. So now that we've weighed the pros and cons, which would I consider to be the best survival cozy game if I had to choose just one? Drum roll, please. It would be Enshrouded. it has somehow crept its way into my little heart and have become one of my favorite games. At this point, I think I could even go as far as to say that it's my favorite game of 2024, and we're only in March. I don't think you can go wrong with any of these games, in my opinion, because I've been so fixated with them all. They each have a ton of potential, and I'm really curious to see how these games will continue to expand. So if you've played one or all of these, I would love your opinion. Which one do you believe is the best? And what do you like about it most? Let's chit chat about it in the comment section below. And while you're there, if you've liked the video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. Join the familia. We would love to have you. And until next time, I will see all you lovely, beautiful, wonderful human beings later.